All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the B3 podcast. I believe we shortened that up.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That caught me off. All
Yeah.
right. All right. I see where we're at.
Anyway, this is our picks episode. We're going to talk about our show partners first. We got Elite Nutrition Omaha. Check them out at elitenutritionomaha.com. Use code B3 at checkout for 10% off, or go to the store in Omaha or Lincoln and yell B3.
Get a free shaker.
Yes. Back to it sounded just like Tanner.
Yep.
We also have Rosewood Block. They make the best cutting boards in barbecue, fully customizable. Check them out at rosewoodblock.com. Use code B3 at checkout there as well.
Swell. I was actually, when you said before the free shaker thing, I was just trying to think of all Tanner's mannerisms and how to best emulate him.
Oh. Well, first of all, your head's too small.
Yeah, and that was the big part. Like I was just like, I don't know how to portray myself with a significantly larger noodle.
Well,
Not like ego, but just physically.
yeah, so we have our pick'ems, but Tanner's not here because he had to work.
Jobs
so
really do get in the way of cool shit.
he did call his pick'ems in. And he wanted everybody to know that besides the Nebraska game, he was 100% last week. I just took the Big Ten in general, except for I picked USC, but USC should have won that game. That's just, they kind of fucked it away at the end against Michigan. Yeah. I mean, Nebraska did lose last week.
Yeah.
And I picked them to win. I just thought it'd be close. But as any Husker fan the last few years, that they lost in typical Nebraska fashion.
The second half, lack of production in the second half, I just find.
Which is kind of what we talked about
Yeah.
the first part of the season, where Tanner just said, they're just being cautious. Nope. I think you have to build the culture of stepping on people's throats and keeping going while you're playing a game to win.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it builds like the dominance factor into
Like I
your,
thought there were a number of years where I always thought that, like, the teams that kind of stood out to me were Minnesota and Northwestern seemed to, like, make really good halftime adjustments against us. And for a while, I was like, oh, well, they're just making good adjustments. But, like, the more it's gone on, and especially talking about it here and stuff, it's like makes me wonder if back then it was really just we weren't performing. Like, we didn't make adjustments, or we stepped back so they looked better.
yeah.
Versus them making second half adjustments.
I'm not 100% sure what the issue is. I mean, I'm not a coach. I'm not an armchair quarterback.
Yeah. But I think, like, now, only a very slightly different level, but in all my years of coaching little kids,
Very slight difference.
just a very small difference in athleticism and talent and stuff. But in coaching youth, like even looking at junior highs and some of the high school teams that I've helped out with, like, strategic halftime changes can be big. Like, I think you always have to change something, but you can't change core principles of like what your team does successfully. Like, you can change some some tactics and some strategies. Like, if you're keying off certain players and it turns out that those players aren't the studs, it's really these other guys, or you see some shift in dynamic or something, you can make those little changes that can have big impacts. But you do have to change, unless you're just, crushing someone, right? If you're coming out and you're, like old school,
whatever you're doing is
Alabama.
working.
Yeah. Like, there was one of the games that we played with one of the last teams I coached. That was like, first of all, it was just full of talent, which is super, super fun because you can do a lot of really cool stuff when you have a lot of talent. We went back and watched the film, and of the 63 run plays that we ran, we only threw the ball once. And that was just because we accidentally dropped a snap, and so we just threw it. But of the 63 run plays that we did, 54 of them were out of the exact same formation, which was like Nebraska called it diamond. We called it rhino. But essentially you have 3 backs in the backfield, 2 tight ends, just like a power goal line. And we started running that because they had kind of like a small front line, and it started to work. And we're like, well, it works. Let's just go to the left and then to the right. And then we just started.
Yeah, the old student body right, student body
we just
left.
started asking like players on the sideline, like, hey, where should we go, left or right? And they were like, oh, let's go to the right. I'm like, all right, cool. And then we go to the right. Maybe it's an inside zone or an outside zone. But if you have stuff like that, then sure, like, you don't have to change. But otherwise, like, for the majority of the time, you have to make some kind of adjustments at halftime. Like, you have to key on different players and change things up a little bit.
Yeah, the Husker offensive line looked like the offensive line of last year,
Yeah.
which wasn't great. The defense had its issues. Anyway, I mean,
Tanner was wrong, I think, is the moral of the story.
moral of the story, he was wrong. He did say they were going to be 11-1. He now says 10-2 still. So he only thinks that we'll lose to Ohio State. It's a bold strategy.
I mean, I don't think that's accurate, but that's fine.
I think as far as this week, they have Purdue. Nebraska is picked by 10 at Purdue. I think Nebraska will beat Purdue. They aren't playing real great. I mean, it is in Purdue, and Purdue does play Nebraska tough, but I think Nebraska can prevail in that game. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I think the 10 is probably a pretty good spread on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and obviously Tanner picks Nebraska, so I don't really need to go over that decision.
Weird. we know Tanner's picks for Nebraska for the rest of the year.
Obviously, except for the Ohio State game. But yeah, I think they can beat Purdue. Yeah. As far as the rest of the Big Ten, like tonight, which is Friday, Washington at Rutgers. We both took Rutgers on that, but that's a crazy travel though. That's West Coast to East Coast all the way.
Ugh. I mean, I assume that they're flying out today, right? So to get
They might have left on like Wednesday or something.
True, they might have left earlier to get some accommodation for that travel. So, I mean, it's generally what, for every time zone you change, you usually need a day to shift.
Is that what they said?
Like, yeah, to shift your.
I always want to know who they is.
They.
Yeah,
Them.
Yep,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Tanner picked Michigan. I feel like there's going to be an upset in the Big Ten this weekend, and my upset call is Minnesota's going to beat Michigan in Michigan.
Ooh.
Minnesota's probably tired of getting fucking beat. But they only, as of right now, the line is only 9.5, and like home field advantage, you get like 2 or 3 just for home field advantage.
Yeah.
So they're really only picking. This is ESPN bet, by the way. They're only picking Michigan really by like 6 points, 6.5. If the
I wish
spread's
they'd
9.5.
show when they show the spreads, like if there was a trender that you could look to see, like when the odds first come out. here's
Oh
what the
yeah,
odds
like
were.
a little chart that
Right.
kicks them down.
Yeah, because I think you said it last time, that right, they're trying to land at that 50-50 is where they're ending up, right? So if they come out and they give you like, here's what we think's going to happen, like even that's a best guess, and then that gets skewed based on, okay, we think this is what's going to be the outcome. If we assume that most people are going to bet that way, where do we need to shift that line
Yeah.
to skew that a little bit? So even those very first odds are skewed, and then the odds change, which I don't know. Sometimes I'm stupid about things, a lot of things, but it took me a long time before I realized, like, why are the odds changing without any like new data? Oh, it's because people are taking their bets, and if one of those bets wins, then it's really lopsided. So they start skewing it to try to get people to take
Yeah.
different bets on the other side to get those new odds.
Yeah, I would be the guy that would bet the other side just because I feel like there's going to be an upset. We both picked Indiana over Maryland. Indiana's playing pretty tough right now. Obviously, Nebraska over Purdue. USC over Wisconsin. Wisconsin's pretty fucking bad, and USC is pretty good. They should have beat Michigan, like I said.
Did I tell you that when I went to see Drew, these college girls thought I was like an Indiana player, maybe a Colts player?
I think you did tell me that.
That was probably one of the biggest ego lifts of my entire life.
Yeah, luckily they didn't have to like see you lift any weights and get hurt.
Oh my God, right? That would have ruined the whole mystique.
They would have learned of your brittle joint syndrome or whatever you have.
Whatever, yeah. Brittle body syndrome at this point.
What else we got? We got Ohio State at Michigan State. I mean, Ohio State's picked by 23. Tanner and I both took Ohio State. The one that everybody's really looking at that I've talked to is the Illinois-Penn State game of being an upset, because right now Penn State is picked by 18. And it might have changed. I think I printed these out yesterday. They might have
If they
changed.
upset, like, Illinois is going to cover that. Like, they're still going to lose, but they're going to.
Some people think they'll win. I told Tanner we had to pick straight win or loss. No covers. So, but we both picked Penn State. And then Oregon is at UCLA. Oregon is picked by 25.5. We both picked Oregon. So we both have pretty much the same bets or same picks, except for I picked Minnesota. He picked Michigan. And he's got Nebraska at 10-2.
That seems ambitious. Like, I don't follow like the Big Ten or like actual like teams, but even just seeing how someone's playing. Like you have to be pretty dominant to go 10-2, even against like mediocre teams.
And the Big Ten's a good conference.
That's, I don't know. Obviously, everyone always talks about like the Big Ten being 18 teams now, but it still just blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole East Coast, West Coast is a big thing.
That's a big deal to travel. Like if you're a professional team, sure, you can go and do whatever you want and you can charter your own planes and stuff. But
I was one of the ones that go to Hawaii.
that would be
That's some
no
gear.
fun.
I don't know if they just charter an entire commercial flight and fly their gear that way. I've never looked into it. But I would have to assume.
Yeah. True.
I don't know. Because you're not going to ship it. It takes too long if you did like a shipping. Like I know bands will ship things like on a container.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, in a month we're going to be over there. So
Right. So send all this stuff over there.
yeah, I don't think schools can afford to send
Yeah.
a whole another.
No, but even traveling to Hawaii is just, I mean, you've got it. It's almost like a 6-hour flight from
LA.
Phoenix. Yeah. Or you go out to LA, maybe you shave like an hour or so off, but that's still, you've got that. Plus, if you're not near one of those main hubs and you have to get out there first and then fly, that'd be miserable.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's our Big Ten picks. Tanner wasn't here to debate himself. Because I'm sure he would have said a bunch of ifs and buts.
And I can see his hands. Like I can just see his hands frantically moving to try to help explain
Yeah.
his point.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts. I mean, I get it. I mean, I used to be hopeful too, and I'm a Cowboys fan, so I get it. They got fucking destroyed on Sunday. They won last night against the Giants, like just barely. The Giants kicked 5 field goals. That's all they did.
Just chipping away.
And the Cowboys still only won by 5. Their defense is fucking god awful. They got ran over by the Saints and fucking Derrick Henry and the Ravens.
Derrick Henry's kind of a monster.
Well, the Cowboys could have had Derrick Henry, but they didn't. So yeah, that's our picks. Matt doesn't have any, but he thinks that Nebraska will beat Purdue.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
You think they're 10-2?
No.
Okay.
And not that because I'm like, oh, here's my statistical information. Like Tanner would just drudge up.
Sometimes
shit.
I just like throw it out there, like that Minnesota over Michigan. Just gut feeling. I feel
Right,
like they're going to
sometimes
win.
it's like, yeah, but I to go 10-2, you have to be like a pretty dominant team because you're going to have days that you don't show up.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, I mean, everyone happens to it. Now you get some of these really top tier teams. If they don't show up, like effort wise, they still have enough skill to like carry that lack of effort, right? But like we haven't demonstrated either one of those successfully a lot. So I just think that's a big ask to have that kind of performance. I don't think we're, light years beyond the teams that we're going to be playing. So we have to come in and perform well every single time. Very few mistakes, and that's really, really, really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. But that's our picks. Let us know if you think our picks are stupid.
Especially Tanner's.
Yeah, especially Tanner's. I mean, it's multiple people in the gym already told me it was stupid. So that part got solved out pretty quick.
Good. Unanimous.
Yeah. But that's our picks. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, follow, share. And we'll keep picking. Probably wrong. Whatever.
Probably.
Yeah. But we'll keep picking. And we'll see you guys next time.